Yo, what is up everybody? Jump in here, and today I am back on some Diablo 3. I'm going to be showing you my level 60 monk build today, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and start with my skills, and then I'll show you some of my gear, and finally I'll show you a little gameplay to give you an idea on how I like to play this build. You can also check out my Let's Play. I have a video where I played a whole episode as the monk if you want a longer preview. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Now, for my primary attack, I'm using Fist of Thunder, Thunderclap. I really don't need to talk about this much. You teleport to the target, you punch him. Pretty simple. But to be honest, I have never once seen a monk not using this attack. It's just so good. Alright, for my RT attack, I'm using Wave of Light. Really love this ability. You drop a bell on them. It's super powerful. I mean, it literally just hits so hard. The one I like is I like Empowered Wave because it reduces the cost to 40 spirit. It's a lot more manageable that way. 75 spirit is like pretty ridiculous. But there's another good one if you want to go for more damage, which is Wall of Light, because it increases the actual damage to 1200. I mean, that's a really big increase. But in general, I would recommend Empowered Wave just for the less spirit cost. Now for my X move, I'm using Breath of Heaven. Blazing Wrath. Now if you don't know what this does, it's pretty simple. You use it and you get 15% more damage for 45 seconds. I mean, that's really insane because the cooldown on this is only 15 seconds. So if you have this, you should never not have a 15% buff. That's so crazy. It's such a good buff. For my Y move, I'm actually using Serenity. I really like Serenity. If you don't know what it does, it gives you some health regeneration and it makes you invincible for 3 seconds. If you go for the passive Ascension, it makes you invincible for 4 seconds. It's really good because if you come across any enemy that can kill you, things with reflect damage, which I really can't stand, things with lava, explosions, ice attacks, whatever it might be, you throw on Serenity and it will not hurt you for 4 seconds. It's really good. Now, another thing you could do is that if you wanted to go for a more offensive version of this, you could actually go for Blinding Flash, and then you could just simply go for the final passive. This is really good for offense because it gives you 30% more weapons damage. It's a pretty good buff, but unfortunately it only lasts for 3 seconds. Now in 3 seconds you can do a lot of damage. But I personally prefer Serenity because, well, I feel so safe when I have it. It's like, oh no, there's reflect damage, Serenity, up, that doesn't hurt me anymore. Really good. Now for my B attack, I'm using Sweeping Wind. I'm using Cyclone as my passive for it. Sweeping Wind is by far one of the best abilities in the game. It is so good. Now, if you don't know, the general idea is that with Thunderclap, you're going to be hitting one target. With Sweeping Wind, this is an AoE attack. And with the Cyclone, you're going to be making all these little tornadoes and doing a whole bunch of AoE damage. It's really nice. So, if you're going to play a monk, I would definitely recommend the two things that you will always want to use is Sweeping Wind and Thunderclap, because that is just such a good combination. Now, for my RB attack, I'm using Mantra of Conviction. Definitely like this. Now, a lot of the mantras are really good, but I definitely think that the Conviction one is the best. This is such a good debuff. It's insane. If you go for the very first passive, when you have it on, the enemies will take an additional 24% damage just at all times, as long as you're in the range of it, which is 20 yards. But this is the best part. If you use it for the first 3 seconds after using it, the enemies will take 48% more damage. So if you come across elites, champions, or if you're fighting a boss or something, you can actually spam this attack a couple times to debuff those enemies, and that is for everyone. So it's so good. Like, you use this against an elite, and you're just hitting them, and the whole group might be attacking that elite. That elite will die so fast. It's really insane. Now for my passives, my first one is Combination Strike. If you don't know what this does, it says each different spirit generator will increase my damage by 8% for 3 seconds. Now, because it says each different spirit generator, I'm pretty sure that is your primary attacks. I don't really know if there's any other spirit generator that the monk gets besides his primary attacks. So really, if you're just using Thunderclap, it's 8%. But even if, like, that is a very good buff, it's just 8%. And it lasts for 3 seconds, which is kind of like whatever because it's every time you punch an enemy. And just think about how much you punch an enemy as a monk. For my second passive, I'm using Insulted Soul. All this does is that it increases my spirit by 100, and it gives me extra spirit regeneration. I like it because with this build, I really like to spam my Wave of Light. I use my Breath of Heaven a lot, and my Sweeping Wind a lot, and even my Mantra of Conviction a lot. So it's really nice to be able to have more spirit and to regenerate it quicker. For my final passive, I'm using Siege the Initiative. What this does is that it increases your armor 50% of your dexterity. So if you have a lot of dexterity, you get a lot of armor. It's really good. Now, I do see a couple things, and I wanted to make a comment about this, which is one with everything. Now, a lot of people love this, and I know why. I mean, resistance is important. But to me, I don't really see the benefit of it all that much because a lot of the things I have are resist all elements. So I already resist everything. And if I was to go for this, I think my total resistance would go up only like 57. So I don't really see the benefit all that much. I'd rather get the more armor, the more damage, and the more spirit, and be able to spam my attacks and do more damage with my attacks. But yeah, Siege the Initiative is really good because it increases your armor by a lot. Alright guys, let me go ahead and now show you my gear. For my primary weapon, I'm using a Bone Saber. Definitely think the Bone Saber is the best weapon for the monk. It gives you attacks per second, attack speed, convert damage dealt to life, and if you can get one with an open socket, you can put some crit hit damage on there. It is an amazing weapon for a monk. For my other weapon, I'm using a Sledge Fist. I definitely think the Sledge Fist is the best fist weapon in the game. If you can get one with an open socket, you can get up to 200% critical hit damage. It also comes with attacks per second. But the best thing is the 46% chance to stun on hit. 46% is basically 1 out of every 2 attacks. And when you think of a monk and how fast you can actually attack, you can lock up bosses, you can lock up elites and champions. It is brutal. Now, for my gloves I'm using some Sage's Gestures. Definitely recommend crafting these gloves. It's really good because if you can craft them, you can go for the trifecta, which would be attack speed, critical hit damage, and critical hit chance. For the shoulders, I'm using 7 Sins. You can craft these as well. I would recommend going for high dex, some decent vitality, maybe some life percentage, or you can also go for some resist all elements because that would be nice. For the chest, I'm using the Innis chest, and I combine the Innis chest with the Innis pants. The Innis pants are the monk's pants, but yeah, these are the best pants in the game, hands down. 9% attack speed on these, 2% critical hit chance, dex, vitality, really good overall. And with the 2 set, you get the 130 dex. For my helmet, I'm using a Mimpo of Twilight. I definitely think the Mimpo is one of the best helmets in the game, and definitely, I think, the best helmet for the monk. Primarily because it will give you some defense with the resist all elements, the attack speed. If you get lucky, you can get one with critical hit chance, and it always comes with life percentage, so if you put the purple gem in there, you can get like some really good life percentage. For the necklace I'm using a Ouroboros. This Ouroboros is really good. Ouroboros can come with a lot of different stats. But if you can get one with attack speed, dex, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage, it's amazing. So good. For my bracers, I'm using some Prowlers. Prowlers are definitely the best bracers in the game because they always come with attack speed. These Prowlers I really like because they also come with the resist all elements, which is nice for defense. And if you get lucky, you can get a set that will have critical hit chance on it as well. For my first ring I'm using a Wailing Host. Now, this is a really good Wailing Host here because it comes with dex, it comes with the trifecta, which is the attack speed, the crit hit damage, and the crit hit chance. But I think what I might do in the future is craft a Hellfire ring. If I can get one with attack speed, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage, that would be great. And it would maybe be better than this ring. I just don't really feel like sitting there and crafting it over and over again. Now for the ring, this is really important. This is what I recommend to do. Now remember, I'm using the Innis chest and the Innis pants to get the 2 set for the monk. But for the ring, my other ring, I'm using the Natalia's Reflection. Now this the reflection is really meant for a demon hunter, but it works really well on a monk because it's dex based. So I use a reflection ring and I use the Natalia's bloody footprints. And by doing that, I can get the 2 set, which is 7% critical hit chance. I mean, that is huge. So good. So that's basically like the 2 combinations I recommend: in his pants, in his chest, Natalia's boots, and Natalia's ring. And then you get the best of 2 worlds. Now for my final piece of gear, I'm using a witching hour. The witching hour is definitely the best belt in the game. If you can get one with dex, that's perfect. It comes with vitality, resists all elements, and you can get them with attack speed and critical hit damage. So the witching hour is amazing. Alright guys, so now I'm going to show you some gameplay to give you a general idea on how I like to play the monk. Alright guys, so now I'm going to show you a little bit of gameplay with the monk Inferno Master 5, so you can get a general idea on how I like to play with this build. Okay, the main thing you're going to be doing here is you're going to be using your sweeping wind, so you want to make sure you have that on, and at all times you do want to have your mantra of conviction on, because when you first turn it on, it's going to debuff all the enemies for 3 seconds for 48%. So what I like to do is use that against elites. But by just simply having it on, any enemy that you're fighting should be debuffed 24%. So I mean, it's a really insane skill in the game. Now Breath of Heaven is another one you should constantly make sure you have that buff. Remember, the buff lasts for like 45 seconds, so it's really crazy because for 45 seconds you get 15% more damage, and the recharge on the actual ability is only 15 seconds. So there is no reason for you not to be buffed by 15% at all times. Combination Strike, I think it's just the 8% because I'm only using the Thunderclap ability, but yeah, it's amazing. If you can't tell, the monk is by far one of the best characters in the game. I personally think that the mage and the monk are the 2 best. That's my opinion now, but yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. When it comes to healing and meleeing and just being in the enemy's face, the monk is amazing. You get like all these buffs, you get the debuff. It's crazy. Check this out. I love the bell, I really do, because I love to spam it. A 40 mighty blow off of that. I mean, that's just so insane, like how much damage you can inflict in a group, by yourself. It really doesn't matter. The monk is awesome. It's a lot of fun. But personally, I really don't like playing the monk. It's not my style. I like to melee with the barbarian, but everything is so slowed down compared to the monk. Like when you play the monk, you feel like you're on drugs. Here's, I think, an example of Serenity. I didn't really need it, but I threw it on just in case because of the ice and the fire. Serenity will save you against reflect damage. That's the main thing why I use it. Breath of Heaven is really good, and Blinding Flash, remember, you could use that if you wanted to for the buff, but I really like Serenity overall. And yeah, when you see these elites, I think it's hard to tell, but I'm using my mantra when I see elites to get that 48% debuff on them. Yeah, but the monk's a lot of fun to play. You feel like you're on drugs. One of my biggest beefs with the monk is that when I play the monk, my console does tend to freeze up sometimes, so you have to be a little bit careful of that. Alright guys, well that's pretty much it. I really hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, will you please like and favorite it for me? That always helps me out. And also be sure to subscribe and tell your friends about my channel. If you like Diablo, I'm constantly pushing out Diablo 3 content because I am like a crackhead when it comes to this game. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to see a longer preview of the monk, you can check out my Let's Play. I do have a video there where I use the monk. But yeah, I really hope you guys have a nice day, and peace out.